Remember, you can build it and you can imagine it, but first there may be a reality check and a disillusionment. This particular conjunction is more likely than not to bring us into contact with a new epidemic of some kind. It was quite a deadly virus, and that was the epidemic called AIDS. Saturn doesn't ask us to give up our dreams, only to make them real. Intuition is our sacred gift, and the rational mind is its faithful servant. Mars is the ruler of Aries. Saturn is in detriment here. He's in a condition of his unease and great discomfort. Welcome to a new era. Whoa. We have two outer planets coming into a connection to each other that's going to allow for us to build our dreams. And that is no small task. When Saturn, the Lord of time, structure, and things that are real, the builder, meets with Neptune, our imagination god, the one that allows us to have great visions and huge, fantastical, imaginal realms of what's possible. When those two planets are in contact with each other, we often begin an initiation period of a new dream in each of our lives, and we become available to how to build it. And I will say, there is a caveat, because this is also a time of hard reality check. If there's some part of your life that needs that reality check so that you can build a stable and long-lasting dream and foundation, that's about to show up as well. We're going to see this energy playing out in our sky on the 20th of the month of February at 0 degrees of Aries. And this energy has not been seen in this sign since 1702/3 when they joined together here in this sign. Before that, 555 AD, and before that, in the middle, did I forget somebody? 1350. So all said and done, in Aries, having these two planets come together is relatively rare. And so we should be excited to see something new in our lives. In fact, every 35 or 36 years, around that time, Saturn and Neptune will join together in a sign, as they did in 1989, 1952, and in 1917. They joined together in different signs in our heavens and initiated a 35 to 36 year cycle. So in any given lifespan, we're likely to only encounter 3 cycles of 35, 36 years. So that's what's really cool to me about this. Like, I'm 63, right? So I've lived through 2 cycles. I've lived through the 1952 cycle that began then, and I've lived through the cycle that began in 1989. And a lot of my followers here are a lot younger than me, so you might not have lived through a lot yet, but I want you to know that this is important. And I want to give you an expression for this Saturn, Neptune thing, that 2 or 3 expressions that I want you to really hold on to. All right. I want you to think about this expression in particular that Stephen Forrest, an evolutionary astrologer, actually wrote, which I think is brilliant. And of Saturn, Neptune in general, let alone in Aries, a pioneering sign, he says, Saturn doesn't ask us to give up our dreams, only to make them real. It's because Saturn is the reality check. He is the taskmaster. He is the tough one. Caroline Casey, an astrologer who I think is a brilliant astrologer, old guard, first, heading the way for us women. I had a reading with her in Cabin John when I was in my 30s and I lived in the DC area. She has a great expression from her book, which I can't remember the name of it. And it is Neptune, the god of our imagination. Okay, Saturn is reality. Neptune lays the tracks for the reality train to follow. So in our lives, as Saturn and Neptune come together, Saturn doesn't make us give up our dreams, right? It helps to make those dreams real. We have our imagination that can lay tracks for the reality train of Saturn to follow. All right. And there is another expression also that Albert Einstein had. I wrote these down, so excuse me, I don't have a perfect memory. But he said, intuition is our sacred gift, and the rational mind is its faithful servant. Intuition, mysticism, seeing beyond the veil, spiritual enlightenment, unconditional love, inner vision, Neptune, right? That's Neptune. Saturn is the rational part, the logical, the linear, making things real. So I do love that an Einstein expression that intuition is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. So those are Saturn, Neptune archetypes. We're going to talk about your sign today. You can listen for sun, moon, and rising. I'll explain the difference in a minute. And so get ready, settle in, a pen, a paper. I've got my glass of water. You might have a cup of tea. We're going to go through your sign in some depth, and we're going to talk about what this might mean for you. How long will this last? For sure, the building it. Okay, Saturn says build. Neptune says dream it. Saturn says build it. They're teamed up in Aries. We want Saturn there for the building phase. And so Saturn will be here through to April of 2028. We tested the waters last summer. At the end of May to September the 1st, we all lived through Saturn and Neptune together in the sign of Aries. So you had a kind of foretaste or foreshadow of what is here now, February the 20th through to April of 2028. Let's get into it. Now, welcome to my channel. My name is Lori Lothian, and this is a Western Tropical Zodiac Astrology channel. This is not sidereal. I would love to invite you today to consider that astrology is a guide, a tool, or a map. But of what? Of time. It is a map of time. It tells you what happened in the past and it maps it out in cycles that have cycle repetition and pattern recognition. So we use astrology as a navigational device to time our best life. It is a time map. And because it is a map, we can use it proactively, but it does not ever override your own inner intuition. Please tune in always, no matter what I say today, to your own inner knowing. This is like astrology's best to supplement your own inner guidance or your prayers or your connection to your divine self, whatever you do to get your guidance, but don't get it from a general astrology channel or tarot channel. Just understand that. And I'm bringing that up for a specific reason. Okay. And thank you, by the way, all my 8,900, 9,500 new subscribers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hit me up in the comments and let me know that you're new. I'm really grateful you're here. But I had some comment going on my last video. I think it was my last video. And maybe Monday's video. And someone was saying, well, Leo is a really good blast today. Leo, our forecast is death and mayhem or something awful. I don't know what the problem was. But and then there was a chain of people like, oh, Lori's biased against the Leos because she's an Aquarius and it's her shadow and all that. Well, I'm an Aries sun. It trines Leo. So I love Leos. No, that's not it. It's that there's an eclipse going through Aquarius in the 7th house of relationship on February the 17th for Leos, indicating there's turbulence in their relationship. And there's Mars activating cutting and severing. It's just the archetypal energy of the sky. So why I bring it up is that maybe someone could listen to that and go, no, I'm madly in love with my husband of 45 years and there's no problems there. That's okay. The 7th house is your audience, your marketplace, your clients. It has other meanings that I always bring up in every reading. So just remember, not everything is going to resonate with you. Some of it will, some of it won't. Keep what works, ditch the rest, come back later, see if I was right. If you didn't like it, maybe you didn't want to hear what you already intuit inside your being. Now, I could talk for 5 hours about Neptune and Saturn. I really could, because it's such a deep topic and it goes into so many layers of what each of those planets brings to the table. So rather than do that today, I'm going to do my very, very best to give you a kind of Cole's Notes, Cliff Notes cheat sheet for how to handle this energy through until April of 2028 for your sign. Remember, you can build it and you can imagine it, but first there may be a reality check and a disillusionment, which is common with Neptune-Saturn conjunctions. You got a taste of the disillusionment process last summer, end of May through to September 1st with those two planets, both in Aries, but not perfectly co-joined yet. Right. But testing the waters, giving you a foretaste. We can call it a refrainment, like coming close, but not quite. Now, some of you know as well, before I get going on your sign, explain which one to listen to. Some of you know that I am literally a predictive world mundane astrologer. In fact, that's part of my passion. And I will be writing a lot in my Substack column at the Pluto Chronicles for free. Just subscribe. It's my weekly column about why this particular conjunction is more likely than not to bring us into contact with a new epidemic of some kind. And the reason that's true, because I'm going to give you happy stories with some rainbows and unicorns and some guiding advice when I get to your personal life. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you this. The reason is that back in the old-timey days when this has happened before, in Aries, we had major illness outbreaks, okay? Flus, viruses, and stuff. I'm about to tell you what, why, and when, and where. Mars is the ruler of Aries. Saturn is in detriment here. He's in a condition of his unease and great discomfort. He doesn't feel well. He's fallen. So he's not behaving very well. He's unable to properly contain something, for example, boundary, borders, containment of something. And in politics, he's a potentially petulant, reckless, daredevil actions by exalted leaders. That's another story. We've already seen that play out last summer when the United States actually decided to go ahead and get towards a Middle East issue when Saturn and Neptune were here in Aries, where Iran has its sun, and there was a, kind of thing going on there to do with things that, target and explode. I don't want to get demonetized here. So there's that. And a lot of you guys, by the way, if you're born in 1899, are having what is called a reoccurrence transit. And, Alex Preddy and Renee Good are both around that era. So they unfortunately were in a reoccurrence transit. And so is Vladimir Putin, I think, in a reoccurrence transit. And this means it's going to be very intense for you. My son is born in 1989. It's going to be really connecting strongly to him. But anyone born around the build up to that, 1987 to 1992 or 1992, you're in a recurrence transit of some kind. You're going to feel this is a very intense period of your life. But one thing I do need to bring to your attention is the idea that Mars is the god of plagues. In the ancient tradition of Babylonian Mesopotamian astrology, Nergal is a plague and war god. Mars says plagues and wars. Mars is the emissary or the messenger of that particular deity or archetypal energy. And when we go back to July of 1917, when the planets co-joined in Leo at 4 degrees, that's Saturn and Neptune in Leo, not Aries, right? So that's why I'm really worried about what's coming up, because it is a sign to do with Mars. That was just Leo. We did have the invitation to a thing called the Spanish flu. So I think a lot of you know that. I'm not going to go into the Spanish flu. It was quite a deadly virus. And then in 1952, in November, there was a joining together in 22 degrees of Libra. And in the 1952 window of time, it was the peak of the polio epidemic in the United States. So, right, massive swell of loss of life or paralysis. It was a peak. The vaccine wasn't developed for polio until 1955. So it incited the worst peak of polio in the United States, hitting a peak in 52 and continually scaring people until 1955 when the vaccine was developed. So I'm giving you some bad news. I'm sorry. It's not always rainbows and unicorns. Okay, everyone, Leos, you especially, I know you like your stuff to be rainbows. March 3rd, 1989, the conjunction happened at 11 degrees and 54 minutes of Capricorn. I've got my notes here. And that was the epidemic called AIDS. And I don't know if many people know this, but although it had been simmering as a quiet sort of problem, like, in the background throughout the 80s, it was in the 1990s, especially in the United States, but all around the world, that there were the massive amounts of loss of life. Okay, 1990s. And if you think about Saturn, the kind of hardship, the Grim Reaper, the one who brings the truncation of reality in the matrix, because we're no longer, say, embodied, like that archetype is there, Kronos, the timekeeper of our life. When he was with Neptune, and Neptune is associated with viruses and illnesses and things that spread, okay? And in fact, in Uranian astrology, the midpoint between Uranus and Saturn is considered to be a point of illness in the chart of a person or the world. So there's things about this that are already in place that we understand that Neptune can do with Saturn in tandem without it even being in Aries. Okay, so yeah. So we have the 1989 surge that followed in the first 3 years, 89 to 1992 or so. There was or even just before that, a surge in the 90s of the epidemic of AIDS at the time. Now we're coming into the next conjunction, March 20th at 0 Aries. Now, there's other factors, right? There's Uranus sextiling from coming up from Gemini. We may not have it being Pluto, trining. Oh, sorry. Pluto sextiling the Aries story. Yeah. So we're having a mini grand trine. I'm tired. I'm jet lagged. I got back from Mexico last night and I'm all off my time schedule. My body thinks I should be in bed right now. So keep in mind, I'm just saying nothing is exactly the same ever twice, but I need you to know that this is a possibility. I need you to be aware of it. And I'm going to give Georgia Strathis, I love her book, Pushing Through Time. Okay. Wonderful book if you want to understand the large synodic cycles for my learners here. Okay. Pushing Through Time, Synodic Cycles and Their Developing Phases by Georgia Anna Strathis is a brilliant book because she even outlines Neptune being music and Saturn being structure and how these conjunctions bring us whole new cycles of music. I mean, hip hop and rap came off the 89, right? And before that, it was like the boogie blues and jazz and stuff like that, from the 1917 to 52, and the 52 to 1989 gave us classic rock and roll. So in other words, Saturn and Neptune will bring us whole new cycles of music because Neptune rules music, photography, filmography, videography, imagination, and dreaming. Saturn, new structures, new forms. Get ready for new types of music. God, I'm so tired of the same old music. It's just awful. I will like some breakthroughs here. And probably AI will help creators of music make different and better and more interesting music. You still need a star or human. I don't think people are going to fall over a robot that's singing, but we'll see whole new developments in music with Saturn, Neptune co-joining and pioneering Aries. But the last thing I want to tell you about Georgia Strathis is she noted that when Saturn in 2019 crossed through the point of the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune together in Capricorn from 1989, it initiated. She said it would initiate. You won't believe it. She was prophetic. I got this book of hers at the NCGR conference in 2019 in Baltimore. That's an astrology conference. When I was there, met Chris Brennan in person, told him I loved him. I met Joni Petrie and I told her she looks like a Leo. It's just my moon, my Leo moon. I talked to Chris Brennan, Joni Petrie, and Nadia Shah, a Canadian, and Adam Ellenbos, who was my teacher at the time, was also there. So I had a nice time at that conference. Okay, so here's what she did predict, and I don't think she's even taken credit for it. I don't know if Georgia Strathis is with us these days. I have no idea, embodied, but bless her, she really covered it. And she did say something amazing, okay? She really called it before anyone else was noticing it. And so I'm reading from her book, and she says, that because Saturn and Neptune is a primary illness midpoint in Uranian and cosmobiological astrology. So she points that out to us. In early 2019, Saturn will once again, okay? Will once again, but because she wrote the book before then, conjunct the 1989 Saturn Neptune is 11-degree Capricorn point where that happened. So Saturn's moving through the sky, crossing over the 1989 point. And so in early 2019, it reactivates this 11 Capricorn part of our sky. And she does make a really good point about it. It's a balsamic phase or the end phase, the waning last crescent moon phase of a cycle that began in 1989. And she says that it will do the following themes. Okay, it will activate the following themes back then. We're talking about the window of time at the end of this last cycle, 2019 through till now. Right now, February, even last summer, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, but now, February 20th. These are the themes she sees coming from 2019 to 2026, where we are currently poised, because she wrote this before these things happened. She said, we will see things like this. These upcoming transits offer opportunities for industries based on water filtration, ocean preservation, immunization, and emergency energy systems to gain a foothold. Okay, so she's talking about industry. All right. She says it's good for industries such as international healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and the legalization of marijuana. Legalization of marijuana happened in a lot of different places in that cycle, but we also had healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and immunizations because we had the COVID pandemic. Hallelujah. So she called it. So you can use astrology to predict the future is where we're going. Now, we're going to do your sign. The deep dive into the world astrology stuff will always be on Substack, Pluto Chronicles. Plus, I have for paid subscribers weekly or whatever, or often, more often, personal all signs delineations of various things that go on in the sky. But I'm unplugged over there, a little bit more at ease. Won't be demonetized for saying bad words. Pow, pow, unaliving. You have to find all these stupid code words here on YouTube. Okay. And it's partly because the advertisers don't want to be involved in scandals, right? The Google ad revenue stuff. Okay, so guys, we're going to start with Aries. We're going to whip around the sky. How do you listen for your sign? Sun sign, your spirit, your eternal nature, the part of you that is beyond this body, beyond the space and time matrix. You are the game player, the character in the game, your avatar in the simulation or game or the matrix. Is your rising sign. It's your ascendant. It's your first breath at the time of birth. It's the body and the characteristics of your personality that come with your rising sign. Earth, air, fire, water, 12 zodiac signs, 12 flavors of God. It's your spark. It's the way you are expressing the spark of God through the 12 signs, 12 sun signs, 12 sparks of God, expressing through 12 character signs, the ascendants, right? So there's a lot going on. 12 by 12 is 144. Quite the matrix, right? And then we also have the idea of a moon sign. That's your idea of feeling, thinking, right? We feel and we think and we feel. Usually we think and then we have a feeling about what we think. And that thinking feeling is the Maya, the illusion of self. We don't know that we're not really the thinking feeling apparatus. We become so identified with our emotions and our thoughts. And in fact, the Sufis would say the thinking feeling bit is not important. It's the knowing heart. And I'll just tell you, once you start to go down an awakening spiritual rabbit hole, you'll start to notice that you witness your thoughts and then you're not your thoughts and you're not the thinker of your thoughts. You're the one that observes your thoughts. But I might be going too far down that for some of you. Just know that you're thinking, feeling moon. If you're listening for that, you're listening today for how you might feel about what's going on in the story of you. Your moon can be your home and your nest. Eclipses to the moon often uproot you. Your sun can be your career and purpose. Your moon could be your mom. Your sun could be your dad. Listen for all three. Over the age of 44, 45, we begin to open up to the sun energies if we live an examined life, right? A life of introspection or starting to figure out who we really are, what we really are, right? So there is that. But in the first 7 years of life, children live out, for the most part, their sun energy, and then they default as they get older to the programming of the character in the simulation, which is your rising sign. But all said and done, I still listen to my rising and my sun because I'm not completely, free of the character in the simulation, the Spock-like autistic Lori playing the science mind all the time and the logical mind and the analytical linear thinker that I can be. I sometimes really go back there. So we all do. Okay, so now it's perfectly as it should be. Let's go ahead and start with Aries. I'm going to spin the wheel. Hopefully I'm not here for too long because of the jet lag from my vacation to Mexico. I really am suddenly feeling like the time zone difference is making a difference. Okay, so let's get started on Aries, sun, moon, and rising. I'll show you the sky so we can spin the wheel together. I also want to mention that there are 3 minor asteroids involved. They're Manwe, Boracisi, and Urania, co-join Neptune, Saturn. And I'll bring a little bit of that to your reading today. For the world, Urania is the muse of song and dance, but also astronomy and astrology. I found Urania tracks with UFO disclosures and things to do with non-human intelligence that it's not from AI. And it's like usually about things in the sky. Manwe was the elf king wife of Varda, and he was known to direct birds, and he had to do with, he's the king of the heavens or the skies or the air. So again, things in the air, things to do with the muse of astronomy, learning things about other planets, maybe some beings from other planets. And finally, we have Boris Cece, and that's about a fake religion. It's a fiction Kurt Vonnegut book, and it's the idea of creating a fake god, a fake religion in the book, and everyone believing it. And so where you want to believe something so deeply and so truly, but maybe to your detriment, right? Sometimes belief can be good. I believe it'll be healthy, and you can do that. But also it can be something much more difficult, because in the book, Boris Cece was a fictional religion based on lies. It was written with the idea of, you could make some kind of religious thing up, I guess, and people would follow it. So the software I have says it's about wanting to believe something so strongly you live as though it were truth, and looking to find a reason to believe because the alternative's too painful. Now, unfortunately, Neptune does rule religious stuff, spiritual, mystical, but also can veer into religion because Saturn wants to give the mystical form. So we'll see, of course, in the next 3 years, some new religious things, some new spiritual movements, some spiritual ideologies emerging. But in your own life, be careful for believing things that may be based on lies. Okay. Don't believe something that's based on lies, like the reason to go off and attack a country in a far off land. Don't believe what you're told. It's probably based on lies. And because we have a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius, we the people, and all of that, this is a chance for the people to wake up. I was just listening to a show today on YouTube called Breaking Points with Crystal Sager and this other girl. No, Sager and Crystal Ball, what a weird name. And they were talking about, oh my God, it's true. There are an elite cabal of people who run the world. And, and they're talking about the e-files that just came out. And they're talking about the stuff that a lot of us had known for a very long time, as if it was brand new information. All right, let's get going. Let's do your sign. Let's not belabor this story, because your astrologer thinks she needs to take a nap. And I have to get this out for you because I'm recording this on Monday, February 16th. This is happening on Friday, the 20th. And this weekend, I'm dropping my 12 All Signs videos. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Buy my 2026 All Signs bundle and individual signs down below, still on the original sale price. Go check it out under my description box under the video. Holy man, guys, I'm so zonked. I forgot to even do the promotions of something that you might want to know about that I'm up to. Yeah, can't make this stuff up. Remember, Neptune is laying the tracks for the reality train Saturn to follow. Remember that Saturn doesn't, how did that Stephen Forrest quote go that I liked so much? Saturn doesn't ask us to give up our dreams, only to make them real. And then Einstein talks about our intuition, right? And how we can use that with our rational mind. Saturn, Neptune. Let's get rolling. So yeah, there you see Urania, the muse of astronomy and astrology, song and dance. So get inspired by this. Neptune rules music, for example, and all deep, creative, fantastical, imaginal things like storytelling and filmography and photography. There we have, of course, we'll have a major change in the music industry. I mentioned that, but also this is Boris Cece and this is Manway. So Boris Cece and Manway and Urania. Let's roll. Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. The first thing to pay attention to, Aries, is that you have a massive first in a lifetime, once in a lifetime, last in a lifetime reset button. Yep. Nothing will ever be the same. Your life is changing. If you're Aries rising, it's your character in the sim, the role you play. If you're sun, your spiritual essence, the true you, it's going to be how you direct your purpose in life, your career. And if it's something to do with your moon, maybe how you feel and think about life is about to radically change, and or matters to do with domicile and where you house yourself, your home. And this is going to be most intense over the first 3 years until 2028, because that's when we have Saturn doing the building, right? The building and imagining, dreaming is Neptune. But you may go through a disillusionment because something has to give. How were you last summer? Let's make it simple. June, July, and August. How were you feeling June, July, and August? Were you feeling any sense of pending disillusionment as there was a close call, but not quite Saturn-Neptune conjunction? Maybe you started to feel something wasn't just perfectly okay with the way things were going in your reality. May have to do with Aries rising, your body, your health. Any of your life goals, your career, your relationship, or your Aries rising where you live, because the rising sign takes cue and looks at all of these placements, 4, 7, 10. But oh, you Aries sons like me, we might have had a disillusionment around purpose and career. And I went through that last summer big time in those months of June, July, and August. My channel wasn't doing very well. I was exhausted. I was putting out a lot of content. I wasn't getting very many subscribers for some reason. I was trying to do something new, see if you like tarot card draws. I was just trying to mix it up. All said and done, I got shadow banned probably. I was talking politics without code words. And so all said and done, I just felt really exhausted last summer and really challenged. I've been rejuvenated. I'm more happy and inspired again, but it was tough. And so the disillusionment factor can't be disengaged right from the creation factor. We have to tear down with a reality check here, Aries folk, something that needs to change. And your moon too, disillusionment or difficulties with moon home. Everyone remembers last summer that I moved in like June, July to a new place. And there was I had the windows open because it was hot and there's no air conditioning. And I was hearing fire hall sirens and hospital sirens all day long on my recordings. They're still there, but because my windows are closed, you're not hearing them as much. And I was a little disillusioned because I didn't know my place would be that noisy. So you'll see this disillusionment factor last summer. And I want you to lean into the future and say, okay, you're coming back now. We're back online, Saturn, Neptune. Is this disillusionment here? Have you been able to work with this reality check? What have you done with what you've already felt coming through last summer? Because a lot of that can be changed, like the disillusionment, not by wholesale dropping, burning it all down. That would be an Aries response, an immature, reckless burning it all down. That would be a reckless Saturnian response to this because he's in his detriment or his fall. Rather, you can find a middle path through this. In other words, what do you need to make a change in your life? Rising, health, body, career, purpose, relationship, anything. Sun, career and purpose for sure. Moon, home, a nest, and emotional comportment. So there's a big change coming in here. It's going to be here for 14 years with Neptune, right? Holy man, till 2039, if memory serves me. But Saturn's gameplay here is for 3 years until 2028 or 2 more. So 2028 is when this ends. What do you want to build? Okay, what can you dream? If you can dream it, you can build it. Saturn, Neptune. About Aries sun, career, Aries moon, your emotional stuff, and where you live, your home, the dream home for Aries moon, the dream career for Aries sun. Yeah. And the dream body, health, way of being, character in the sim. If you're Aries rising. Now, I wanted to draw everyone's attention to 2 other factors for each sign. And we have Chiron, the wound that you've been experiencing since 2019 wants to begin to heal. Chiron leaves in 2027 out of this section for good. And then we have Mars. Mars is the ruler of this Aries sky, and he's in the house of influence, social groups, career gains, a sibling one older. For every Aries listening, that category of story is important because we do have Mars there. And by the way, Pluto's here. I didn't draw him in. But Mars in particular is directing the Saturnian onset of something new over the next 2.5 years. So Mars will say, can you rely on friends for help? Get a step up, a leg up from allies and benefactors? Can you have a new long-range goal, plan, dream, or vision for your life, Aries? Because that is exactly what is the 11th house, meaning to have this vision or goal or forward-thinking plan for one's purpose and career and life in general. Changes of social groups, social settings. By the way, sobriety, Saturn, Neptune, ending, cutting, like a kind of hard energy around groups of belonging and social crews that have addictive habits or patterns that you no longer want to be involved with. But on a more beautiful, simple note, changes in the way you gain money in your career have social influence, circles of friends, allies, and benefactors, while you at the same time establish a first and once in a lifetime brand new sense of self. Whether it's your career self, your homebody self, or your character in the simulation, all-purpose Aries ascendant, all selves count. Please, guys, use whole sign houses. I don't, do I need to staple a tutorial to the front of every video? You don't get proper Time Lord tools to work from the ancient traditions without whole sign houses. That's why in India, they still use whole sign houses. If you start to use Placidus, you're going to keep going, oh, blah, 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 blah. You're going to ask me questions that don't matter. How to cast your chart in whole sign houses, free tutorial under my video. Please do it. I need to start with that at every beginning of every video so people know if you're talking Placidus, you're lost and you're not going to understand a thing half the time. Okay, but Aries, you got the gist, right? That's what I got for you. Like I'm not a hoser. I certainly don't mind Pluto up here. I guess I should draw him back in, right? Because people will complain, but trust me, Pluto's right here. It's Mars dominating here with Pluto. The thing that Mars is directing the story of what must happen. He's also in Saturn's sign. Okay. So there's a mutual reception going on between Mars and Saturn, which I think is quite positive myself. Alrighty. Holy man. It means they're helping each other. Mutual reception. All right, Taurus, I'm with us. We're together. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. Sun, moon, and rising. If you go back to Aries, I explained, or the beginning of I explained sun, moon, and rising. I can't do it all over again. Go back and find it in the timestamps, how to delineate the difference. All right, so one thing to pay attention to under this kind of a sky is how subtle this might feel at first. You are definitely not going to notice this is going to clobber you over the head unless it has to do with your spiritual life and you're already quite self-aware. Because the full spiritual liberation or moksha liberation, freedom that's available here in the 12th house is the actual catapult to Buddhahood. Okay, or walking in water, Jesus, or whatever else you think is the highest level of enlightenment. So there is a possibility for seekers who are Tauruses to move toward a state of greater self-awareness, self-actualization, specifically spiritual enlightenment in the next 2.5 years through to April of 2028, as Saturn will be laying Neptune, your imagination will lay the tracks for Saturn and the reality train to follow. And I would think with this kind of energy as well, if you are all working through any kind of self-undoing, karmic patterns and knots, ancestral problems that are holding you back, or addictions and self-undoing, especially addictions here, because this house leads to how we undo ourselves. We fall away from our own intrinsic power. The ways you have undone yourself, all of your life, this is first in a lifetime, last in a lifetime. In the next 3 years, Saturn will help you reality check what it is you have to get rid of so you can move forward. Was there a reality check vibe and a disillusionment or a hard look at a difficult situation in your life to do with self-undoing and addiction, bad habits, patterns, and all of that? Where are you your own worst enemy? Last summer, June, July, and August, when Saturn and Neptune were together here, did you notice something about yourself that you're ready to let go of? And did you not quite get there yet? Because now it's time to take action and move towards the change you're looking for. Because by unraveling your own self and doing bad habits, patterns, and addictions, you're going to succeed in your career, make changes in your career and reputation that serve you and that are going to lead to success. That's what Mars is trying to tell you in that mutual reception to Saturn. In your 12th house, you have foreign lands and distant shores, far off places and people. Now, the 12th house could mean that you're going to move towards certain considerations to do with career and foreign countries, career and foreign people, career and making money abroad. Like you could live in another country and work there. You could work for an international company. You can make borderless income and digital revenue. That's ways we make money in the 12th house. If that's something you're thinking you might want to try out, this looks good on you, to say the very least. Hospitals belong to, jails and prisons belong to the 12th house. It's a place of isolation and solitude. If by any chance you have an elder, Saturn represents elder. Neptune can represent cognitive decline, dementia, or just confusion, or something like that. An elder Saturn person, maybe a diffuse health problem no one can figure out, a viral problem, Neptune, a contagion problem, Neptune, in a hospital setting. Now what? On the day of the ingress? No, not at all. 10th house father figures might be involved here. Elders might be involved here in a health problem. And the chironic challenges is the doctors and nurses and the health stuff as well. So there is that for some of you. And I can't pretend it's not there. I would be lying to you, right? It might be time for an elder, somebody in your family of origin, maybe a father figure, to be ready to partake a leaving of the planet. Less astrology does talk about real life, guys, not always about ascension. So I have to let you know that this is something that could occur. Could be an elder parent, grandparent, could be a father or mother, I don't know, grandmother, grandfather, that kind of thing is in the sky at this time. Especially with Pluto and Mars in the 10th house of the father in the tradition I'm using. Now, one other element of the 12th house is expenditures and expenses and charity and charitability. Maybe some of you might find that you're going to get a handle on your expenditures and expenses. Saturn could help you contain and control where you have expenses that you haven't been able to manage properly. Especially if any of those expenses and expenditures are connected to matters to do with career and reputation. So I'm not sure what else I could say about that. But if you have been unable to control outlays of money, spending or things that you have to pay, and you feel out of control with that, you might be able to turn that around with Saturn between now and 2028. Sextiling, by the way, with Neptune, your second house of wallet, pocketbook, and savings. So I can see a curtailment of expenditures. And lastly, solitude and alone time are your best friend. Meditation, intuition, reverie, nocturnal dreams, ashrams, spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and truth. Saturn rules the house of spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and truth are your best frickin' friend. Do not miss out on the spiritual enlightenment transit of a lifetime. Start going inward. Go within or go without, as they say. Introspection is key. And you might even unhook from and leave behind forever if ancestral pattern. You are the lead goose in the family of origin, breaking a pattern in your family of origin. So keep your eye on that ball, right? I can think of a few Tauruses I can see getting ready to break ancestral patterns that have held them back, or childhood wounds or karmic vows from past lives, in order to launch forward. And I love it for you that way. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign, a beautiful new beginning, once in a life, first in a life time. Don't forget, Stephen Forrest tells us Saturn is not the bad guy. He reminds us that Saturn doesn't ask you to give up your dreams just to make them real. Don't give up dreams. Make them real, because this is a house of dreams. If you are a Gemini, and I have a progressed sun here, so I'm liking my vibe, and you have goals and dreams and cherished dreams at that, and things that you've always wanted to accomplish because it's your forward vision of what you desire in life. This is a desire, house. Then it's very possible that this is your time. I want you to think of this time we're in now through until April of 2028, and know that if you're ever going to make some of your dreams true, it's now or never. Can I sing it for us? Now or never. La, la, la. It is now or never. But we have reality checks, right? We have to go through a disillusionment process. And we might have already gone through that last summer. You could go throughout the summer, June, July, and August, when you basically had a solid Neptune-Saturn combination testing the waters here. And you might have felt, oh my God, like reality check, I'll never get my dreams, goals, and visions done here, or created, or even settled into, unless I get a grip on something. Disillusionment with your career gains, fame, fortune, money, rewards, awards, disillusionment. Feeling like, is it really worth it? As Midopan always says, with the Seven of Pentacles, is the juice worth the squeeze? That's me last summer with my Gemini sun. I wanted to just lay around on the beach and have a relaxation, maybe write my book proposal for my agent, maybe do something creative. And I was asking all last summer, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it, I'm disenchanted with it. I said to myself, I mean, so I have 100 and something thousand subscribers. Am I actually okay right now. Now I'm saying I'm better now. I've come out the other end of that. I come up with a sort of new angle of surrender around the whole thing. And I feel very open again about my channel, but I was contracted last year. And so there's something about your 11th house, all of us Gemini energies, not my progressed sun, your natal sun. Progressed plans are not as important as your natal, but they count. And I think for a lot of us, or you or me or whatever, you could look for something up in the 11th house to do with a new beginning or a fresh start on a dream that connects to places where Saturn has influence, particularly the 9th house, in a mutual reception to Mars, who's telling Saturn what to do. And this means that they're working as a team, Saturn and Mars. They're working in a whole sign mutual reception team. So here's some dreams that can align with some changes and actions and decisions in the dharmic and meaning and purpose of life house, the 9th house. Book publishing. That's me, 4 books to write. Book publishing, going back to university, being a professor, traveling the world, being on a humanitarian mission, being on a pilgrimage, finding a guru, finding a spiritual practice that really works for you. These are Mars 9th house narratives. Having a life of significance and purpose and meaning for sure. And Mars is trying to make decisions and support Saturn and Neptune here it's a what do you call it, baked in energy because of Mars's energy on the onset of this as the Lord of the story, that you're going to do that in the next 2.5 years. By the time you get to the end of April, you'll find that you're able to move into a more meaningful, spiritually informed, truth, knowledge, and wisdom direction. And so for me, it's probably, for example, getting some books published or written and in the pipeline with publishers, or my own self-published works, who knows? All right, friends, social groups, and family, social circles, not family, your elder sibling, one above you, changes in that relationship. Your friends, groups of belonging, changes in that area of your life. First in a lifetime, once in a lifetime, you'll start to socialize or get to know different types of people. Now, Saturn, Neptune could be Hollywood, filmmaking, photography, glamour, music industry, or something like that. But it also could be a new type of friend, spiritual, wise, imaginal, creative, productive, and realistic people that come into your life, sober people. This is a sobriety thing, Saturn, Neptune conjunct in any sign. And this is the types of people you hang out with. I've already started that. I quit wine. Oh, I don't know when. On the 16th, 17th or so of January. And I will prefer sober company. It's more fun because if you're the only sober person in a room and everybody's drunk, it's boring. So there's something like that as well. Sober friends, okay? And reality checks around the glamour that you had, the chironic wound about friends and friendship circles that began to bother you in 2019 is coming to a crisis turning point in the next couple of years where you're going to get rid of, or the friends that aren't the friends that you need and really desire will leave. All right, they're going away. Bye-bye. You could become acknowledged as a very strong expert, master, authority in a Neptunian topic. Music industry, filmography, video, storytelling, and spirituality. Saturn, mastery and authority. 11th house, celebrity, groups of influence, belonging, movement maker. I think that's what I've got for you. I mean, as I said, I could go on forever and ever and ever. I have a Gemini friend, and he's a director of global operations in a corporation of some kind, global operations, 9th house. You see what I'm saying? This is career perks, gains, and rewards, being an expert authority. He may lead to a greater height of success, for example, on a very, simple level. Okay, let's keep on keeping on. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. What I like about this is it's pretty well angular, meaning it squares you, and it means it's intense, and it means your life is going to change, not a little bit, a lot of it. It's going to really be a big deal. Angularity brings in the nature of Mars. It means that your life is going to have massive pivots as a result of this first in a lifetime, once in a lifetime transit. Neptune and Saturn together in your 10th house. Your 10th house of your career, your reputation, your social standing, married, widowed, divorced, ceremonies, christenings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, all of that stuff, publicly held, top of the sky, witnessed by the world. Your actions are up there and everyone sees you. If you want to consider a new beginning and something completely fresh in this part of the chart, there's two factors at play. It won't be out of the blue. Saturn's been working his way here for the last 30 years, particularly go to the 14 years and 7 years behind you. You are trying to accomplish something in your career where you are authoritative and masterful over the next while. You tested those waters as well last summer, June, July, and August. And with Neptune's help, he was there at the same time. You may aspire, like go back to June, July, and August. Did you have a reality check, a disillusionment, or a real challenge with the work world? Did you want to move away from one thing to go to another? Did you feel like you should quit, but you weren't sure? Did you come out of a sense of completion, or should I complete my work? Saturn in the 10th house is misunderstood. Unfortunately, okay? It's a culminating energy where expert authority and mastery of career matters could come to a peak, like you climb to a top of a mountain. But when we climb to a top of a mountain, what do we do next? We go down the other side. So Saturn through the 10th house is both an ascendancy to the top and then going down the other side. So, but between now and April of 28, Saturn with Neptune is allowing you to do that with a different vibration than Saturn alone. Neptune says, dream it. And then Saturn says, I can make it real. I can build it for you. You know, I remember when Kamala Harris had the election and we had Saturn moving through Pisces and people thought that meant she would win or something. But also it just meant she was at the peak or the height of something. And so getting to the vice presidency was her mountaintop. See? And there's some other things that happen in her chart, but that was one of them. So I want you to think about where you want to sort of reach the sky for the top of a mountain, authority, mastery, and success. Dreams come true, build it, but know that you may not stay on the top of that mountain. By the time you get to the April of 2028, you might start to go down and think about a new direction or an extension of the direction. There's a book called The Doom Loop we go through 4 career phases every time. And, and the last one is past mastery. When you stay past your mastery to phase 3, you start to get sloppy, tired, reckless, with work that you no longer enjoy or feels too easy. So that's the thing with Saturn up there. It's going to be something like that. So you still have a success story though, but you're also going to go down the other side. Trust me. And I can talk about it from my own chart. This kind of thing could look like making a concrete change of direction and career. You've had a career wound here. Chiron, the key to purpose is 2019. You're looking for the key to purpose. Unless you're a healer, guide, mentor, or teacher, which are chironic roles. And that just means you've been doing that kind of chironic career since 2019, February. There's also this Chiron key to purpose, how we use our original medicine, natural gifts, and talents in the world. That's what he offers up. And when he's in the 10th house, he says, use your natural gifts and talents for the world to help the world in some way, because you've learned through your hard knocks of life. And now you could mesh those hard knocks and learnings for your best talents and gifts you have to offer the world, your original medicine, just as original as your fingerprint. With vision, imagination, and clarity and reality, here, the combination. All right. You might notice that Mars is in the 8th house of money that is not coming from a wage, dollars for hours type environment. This could also indicate that you might come into an inheritance over the next 2.5 years, spousal support money, any kind of insurance payouts, money from your marriage somehow, and it could apply to changes in your career and reputation. Saturn is a solitary one, and he rules your marriage house. Unfortunately, this means some of you may be coming into times in which you're considering a divorce, or perhaps if you're somewhat older, maybe your spouse and you are going to separate because someone may no longer be incorporated in their body. So yeah, widowers and widowhood, status and reputation, weddings and wakes. I have to see it like I say it. I see it like I say. I say it like I see it. I'm a realist, guys. Saturn on my ascendant in Aquarius. This is a part of the sky to say with Mars here, changes in your chunky money connected as well to your reputation, your career, or direction in your career. This could be a severance package, a retirement package, a sign-on bonus as well. Okay. And that's what I got for you. Chunky money changes are coming your way. Give me that chunky money, as I always say. I'll take it any day. Mutual reception between Mars and Saturn means it's positive. Mars will try his best to vibrate toward something that means decisions and actions around money. This is separating money as well, dividing money that you have with another person, shareholding in business. Like I share the money with my business partner, I share the money with my spouse, separating, dividing the money. That's what inheritances do as well. So just have to let you know when that the vibe is there, the vibe is there. Now, I'm going to just go get a drink. No, it's not booze. It's in my fridge. I don't know. There's a maple drink called Sapsucker. It's got a little maple syrup in it and it's fizzy. I think it's Canadian. I think it'll keep me going from what feels like an absolute wave of fatigue. I don't know if it's coming back from a beach where I was so restored and a lap pool or what, but I'm going to come back. I'm going to bring it and slurp it in front of you. We're only a quarter of the way through this video. If you appreciate the depth, the time, and the heart I'm putting into this once in a lifetime, first in a lifetime storyline, hit the like button. For the love of God, hit the like button. Subscribe would be nice as well. I was up really early, like, oh my goodness, 6:30 a.m. And I didn't fall asleep till almost midnight, maybe. So that didn't help. 11:30, and then tossed and turned a bit. Peach flavored. Made in Canada. It's carbonated water and organic maple syrup and organic natural flavor and citric acid. Okay. Don't forget, liking, subscribing is the very least you can do to help me out. Or unsubscribe if you hate me, but whatever. Do your own thing. We're moving on. And that's Leo. Leo, I don't hate you. You're not my shadow. I'm not out to get you. I'm sorry that there's an eclipse happening in your marriage house with Mars, the cutting, ending, severing guy, but don't take it personally. Thank you. Public service announcement. Leos, you're not hated or by me, nor do I think that there's anything wrong with you. Leo, first in a lifetime, once in a lifetime, ninth house initiation. It's not just, it's going to kind of roll out over 35 years, right? But the point is it between now and April 2028, you have a double whammy Saturn Neptune vibration here. And it's literally about making something that you can dream real and bringing it into form. And it's a ninth house, which is one of the most spiritually significant places because it's about one's dharma, the path in life we take that aligns with our talents and purpose in life, where we feel we have a significance to life. It's knowledge, wisdom, and truth and spiritual ideology up here. It's book publishing because that's a part of wisdom and knowledge. It's the law books, courts, and legal matters. It's things to do with travel to distant, far off shores and lands, because pilgrimages happen here and have happened here from time immemorial. It is stuff to do with your dreams and the dream temples of Asclepius at night. And it may invite you to education in ivory tower colleges and academic settings. It may call you to not only learn, but also maybe to teach. Now that all of that has been spoken by me in great reverence for the lions and lionesses of the world, I think you hate me. You guys all hate me because I say Trump's a Leo rising, but he is. Now that I've spoken that, what are you going to do about this story? Well, I want you to go back to 2019, where you're feeling wounded a bit with legal court matters, with foreign land travel and people and places and things, with publishing and book publishing. What wounds did you sustain around having a significant and meaningful life path and purpose? Where were you unable to find true north in your life and compass needle the way of your true north pole star thingy, the pole star? Follow your bliss, follow your path in life. Those are things that you've been working on since 2019. Now, Saturn wants to bring some structure and form, and Neptune wants you to imagine what's possible in this part of the sky for the first time in your life. You may track back to last summer, June, July, and August, and ask yourself, did I feel any disenchantment, reality check, disillusionment around some of the things that are up in those ninth house stories? You may have felt it. That song, Losing My Religion. If you had a spiritual faith, you might have lost it. Okay. Seriously, because this is religious stuff. The best you can do here is to have a operating system for life, a spiritual ideology that works. But if you don't have a spiritual ideology that works, a structure of beliefs around what the universe is doing and what it's for and what your life is about, and you're cast into the abyss with nothing, you're going to look for something. So some of you, I don't have a religion, I don't care, I don't need God, whatever. And you will think, no, by the time you get to April 28, you figured something out. You got your operating system for spiritual ideology in place. You will. I don't know. It may not be traditional. It's pioneering Aries, right? It may not be, I'm going to, my parents are like Catholic and I'll be Catholic again, or I'll go to the, no, it probably isn't that. It's probably something very new. Now, yeah, you could have hardship in courts, right? Saturn is courts. And you could be having some difficulties here over the next 3 years. So I just have to be honest, because Saturn Neptune can really put you through the ringer of, pie in the sky dreams of winning the court battle or getting a massive payout from the judge or, some shit like that. And Saturn's being realistic, and keep your eye on where realism and fantasy need to make a pact here, a middle way about what's possible, especially if you plan to go into court battles of any kind. Be careful that your expectations are realistic, as well as dreaming for the best. And if any court issues involve marriage separations, with Mars in the seventh house of marriage, or common law or committed love, that is going to be a place where you have to be reasonable. The mutual reception here says if you're looking at separating assets in a court situation with a spouse over the next 2.5 years, then you're going to find that it's going to work out in the end with that mutual reception. But it may start with some disillusionment. Did you feel anything June, July, and August regarding disillusionment around shared monies in a spousal relationship or a business partnership? Those could be gone back to see where that refrainment last summer, where it almost conjunct but didn't, comes back again for review as we come into this conjunction this February and in the months that follow. Mars in the seventh house can be an open enemy, as somebody who's like attacking you, or you feel like you're being attacked. And you may have, to deal with that vibe of having to overcome something through ninth house matters, to deal with people who are not your friend and they're openly in an attack mode towards you. And because this is spiritual advisors, if you have a priest, a pastor, a rabbi, a therapist, maybe, or even a life coach, you might have to lean on a wise elder Saturn. Now, it's kind of funny. Saturn is not Saturn the elder, the wise sage-like elder in reckless, impulsive, youthful Aries is an oxymoron. So you might have a younger guide mentor who's wise. Okay, that could be true, but it's the wisdom, sage-like wisdom, the Zen master, the Yoda vibe that wants to reach out to you from a deeply spiritual, unconditional love, oceanic consciousness Neptune place to advise you in a fire trine. If you've never seen an advisor spiritually, you don't have a life coach, or you don't have some kind of guiding mentor, teacher, healer, anything, because Chiron's up there, you'll get one in the next 2.5 years. You're not going to go it alone. You're going to find that person to guide, mentor, teach, or help you through life's challenges in the next 2.5 years. This is a sibling, the ninth house, 2 older than you, or 4 younger than you. And those siblings that I just named by age are also going to be prioritized by you, maybe last summer, June, July, and August, but also again, more priorities towards those siblings again, 2 older, 4 younger. As you go through the next 2.5 years, somehow, some way, they're going to be on the docket of your attention. I would also say the last part of this is you could be drawn strongly to travel internationally to places that are karmically connected to you from past lives or some sense of being there. Lord of time and karma, Saturn. Neptune, obviously seaside, oceans, water bodies. Saturn, mountaintops and hillsides over water bodies, and remote and far and pioneering, like frontiers, Aries. And some of you will go on pilgrimages like the El Camino or to a guru in India or something. Those are things that will call you in the next 2.5 years. So you can attain some intrinsic knowledge and truth and wisdom through those journeys, through those pilgrimages, through those invitations for spiritual depth and learning. If you want to go off to higher education, college or university, yeah, absolutely. And that would bring you wanting to learn maybe Neptunian things, imagination, storytelling, book publishing. Good for writing, good for book publishing as well. Moving on to, and it's really, I'm talking about the next 3 years, right? I'm giving you kind of the Saturn Neptune intensity together through to April of 2028, although Neptune will be here till 2039. All right. So it's a lot more there than meets the eye. Already a Virgo sun, moon, and rising sign. It is very possible that you will receive some money that you don't earn in the next 2.5 years. This can be spousal support, divorce settlements, widowhood settlements, money from any kind of inheritance. This is chunky money. It doesn't have to be that. We're going to start with the most obvious part of the story: shared resources and unearned income. Saturn has never been here with Neptune before, right? Yeah, Saturn was here 35 years ago, 1996 to 99, but not with Neptune. So now we kind of bring it together and we say, well, and the two of them here together in Aries, last seen in 1700, and 3 could open up a new direction for you financially. Saturn is mutually receptive to Mars in your 6th house, which is a house of debts, karmic and real. This can mean a major amount of money could come in to stabilize and turn around debt situations where money and debts have been problematic, whether they're mortgages, bank loans, or credit cards, or just owing somebody somewhere money debt situations can turn around. Now, Saturn is also in his sextile to Mars whole sign reception, being directed by Mars and vice versa. This could lead to work, some kind of job or work situation, employment situation, with the money coming in a way that's very different from the past, where maybe you were clocking hours and doing the 9 to 5, and now there's a new type of money. This money at the 8th house can look like book royalty money, income from Google AdSense, can be money from commission payouts, but it's not like the regular salary. So that kind of money also may be emerging in your life. Money from winning a lawsuit may be also a possibility too. There's a deep psychological and spiritual element to the 8th house, which involves spiritual enlightenment. It's the disassociation, or that's the wrong word. It's the realization that you are not the self you think you are. You are much faster, more spacious, more still, and you don't have to be involved in the nonstop virus of your mind that thinks and thinks and thinks and feels that, and the feels that come from the thinkings. Okay. It can help you awaken spiritually from the disturbance of a busy mind and come into the stillness and the still point. So you're not the choppy ocean waves, you're the depth of the ocean, and the waves can be witnessed and watched, and you're no longer a part of it. That's the kind of liberation that's here. So if you're on a spiritual path, if you want to awaken, you can do it from here. This is also a part of the sky that has to do with your psychic, paranormal, occult stuff. You know, tarot, numerology. I talk to dead people. Saturn is mastery and authority. Neptune is unconditional love, mysticism, piercing the veil, seeing beyond this dimension. Some of you have innate talents psychically, spiritually, that are going to be blossoming to a new level of mastery in the next 2.5 years. And because Saturn rules the house of entrepreneurship and natural talents and gifts as well, you'll be emerging into awareness that you have these gifts and talents, that you can like see the future or heal somebody or use a divining rod or pendulum, that you have a natural talent for astrology, numerology, or gene keys or something. This kind of world of woo-woo will open up. And if you want to be entrepreneurial with that, Saturn says, yes, the work could be different than a salary and paycheck, because it's maybe just a side hustle, or it's a whole new entrepreneurial business. Whatever it is, it could open those doors for you. Now, also, if you wanted to change your work from this, you could change your work towards financing. You could be an accountant, an investment banker. You could be investing in the markets or something like that as well. And one last thing, because I don't want to scare anyone, because I said inheritance, right? Saturn is elder, and Neptune can be cognitive decline or dementia or confusion. And so a confused, demented elder, that sounds awful, may be going to pass away in your family of origin in the next 2.5 years. Now, I mean, were you disenchanted, disillusioned, by the way, with some of the themes I've talked about last summer? Because we also have reality check here. You know, reality check about that chunky money, the investment money, the 401k investment strategies, the chunky money you share with a spouse. Are you being, this is a reality check. Did you have a reality check last June, July, and August about share the resources with a spouse, about inheritance money potentials, or whatever it is? Well, anyway, now you're going to come back, look at the reality again, and figure out what's true. Because don't forget, Saturn isn't quashing your dreams. He doesn't take them away from you. He says, let's make them real, like, you know, structure and action and form that takes the intangible and makes it real. So a lot of you will consider this a money transit. Okay. And it'll be always activated for the next 2.5 years by Sun and Venus and Mercury, and you're changing a lot to do with money, and you may have no choice to do it. And you don't make the change makes you, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot going on in the sky that tells us you may not have all the control, right? Especially the Aquarius Leo eclipse axis. Alrighty, anything else I want to tell you? No, that's it for now. We'll be doing a lot more on this as time passes and major activations happen. Let's go talk about Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You have a new beginning, first and once in a lifetime conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in your 7th house. The 7th house is usually a significant long-term love partner, business relationship, or partnership. Sometimes if you have a career that brings you into the public eye, then this is your audience marketplace, you know, fans, clients, customers, for it is 10 houses from the 10th and represents the public space of your career. And in that regard, some of you might end up having some changes in that area as well. Now, Saturn brings things into hard form and realism, and Neptune is the god of what one dreams into being, what one fantasizes. You might have had a reality check last summer. You want to go back to June, July, and August of last summer around long-term committed love and relationship. And possibly even your partner went through a difficult disillusionment as well, if you have a partner. This is a sobriety mark. Saturn, Neptune means to contain or control realistically the impulse for escapism and delusion. And so your partner in life may be going through a very sobering time and maybe looking for reality checks around their own escapist patterns, habits, and even addictions. And keep in mind that you've been going through a chironic wound since 2019. And that chironic wound has been in the area of long-term committed love or business partnership. And now you might say, okay, I'm going to heal that wound. And this next 2.5 years until April of 28, we've got it. We're going to figure it out. Now, there's a thing about just Saturn here, reality checking and testing this enduring durability and lasting quality of the marathon of love. If you get this Saturn transit finished by April of 28, it will either make or break a relationship in the following ways. You and your long-term love partner will look for new forms and structures that are beautiful, idyllic, and spiritually open. to make this relationship work. We're going to get married on a beach in Ireland by a priest of the highest Celtic way. You'll formalize the relationship. You'll give it new structure. You'll move in. You'll buy a home. You'll get married. You'll plan a wedding. You'll plan children. Mars is in the house of children, decisions to have children. And the relationship will be tested, like a home inspector before you buy it, or the automobile inspector, the guy looking to see if the engine block is cracked. You don't want to buy a dud car. You don't want to buy a dud house. So there's a testing of Saturn here through till April of 28. Neptune would be the best possible outcome, would be to aspire towards a place of unconditional love in a relationship and give it the space to find form and traction for growth. If you're single, you could meet somebody new in the next 2.5 years here. Don't go back and think, did you almost meet somebody, but not quite? Last summer, June, July, and August, and then it kind of fizzled or didn't work out. Single Libras, that's possible. It's called a refrainment last summer. The real deal could come through this summer. If you do get a real deal relationship coming, you got Saturn here. That person has an age difference, most likely 6 to 7 years younger or older than you minimum, if not lots more. But on the other hand, Neptune says soulmate and spiritual union and divine complement. So both of those are true. And this could bake in a very profound spiritual relationship based on karma, based on a need for this relationship to exist. And I like this relationship dynamic with Mars because Mars is passion and sexual passion as well, kind of like the randy, robust, Horny vibe. You see, Venus just wants to cuddle and snuggle, but Mars is Horny. And I don't know if that's going to be a shadow ban word. So you could find yourself really coming into a very interesting relationship with a lot of passion, but a lot of spiritual depth as well if you're single and looking for love. Don't look for love, you are love. But it's such a cliche in the tarot world. I'm always saying, looking for love. You can't look for what you are. Like an eyeball can't see itself. Well, we always look for the love outside of ourselves, which is fine until awakening happens. It's fine. Bringing Saturnian and Neptunian people into your life. What? Elders, authorities, Neptune, Hollywood, filmmaking, photography, storytelling, individuals, business partners, and characters. Those types of people showing up more often in your life over the next 2.5 years. With Mars governing and a mutual reception from your 5th house, this is a really good transit for art, creativity, and entrepreneurship. 5th house stories, galvanizing more success in the audience, public, and marketplace. However, you need to bring the audience marketplace something that inspires and a vision and you dream to the audience that is structured and has form, but pioneers at the same time and allows for people to take tangible actions on whatever it is you're offering. You know, in entrepreneurial business, you've got to find the pain point. What are people suffering? What do they want to get rid of? What do they want to fix? And you go to address that and you give them a fantastical, wishful, dreamy possibility with structural form. You're not giving them an IKEA cabinet without the instructions, which, by the way, don't work anyway half the time. You have to have like the 7 habits of highly effective people, that kind of delivery into the marketplace. But you will be pioneering something new because it is Aries. Okay. Oh, and lastly, you could change your home. But if you move your home, it's for Mars 5th house reasons. And that would be like, I'm having babies. We need 5 more bedrooms. I'm changing my home because I need to be closer to my kids. I'm changing my home because of a romantic relationship and moving in with the person. Change of home is a big deal between now and 2028. If you do change your home, it's an exalted change of home, and it will be a significant change of home. Like, it will bring you a really amazing new home. Okay. It'll be a big deal change of home. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. Let me take a slurp of sapsucker. What a creative name for a drink. Well, job, work, slavery. Yes, I said the word slavery because the 6th house was the house of slavery. indentured servitude, employment, sixth house, Saturn. Saturn is a good one here and a bad one. Neptune. Go back to last summer, June, July, and August. Were you disillusioned with your work? Was there a reality check around the job or livelihood that you have? Did you feel like instead of being of service, you were in servitude? Was there something going on there? Did you have a health challenge that no one could figure out what was wrong with you? Nebulous, confusing, and foggy challenges with your health. Did you want to get a pet and you were confused about what kind of pet to get last summer and you refrained from choosing? This summer, this time is different, right? Now we're going to be here till 2028 in a once in a lifetime, first in a lifetime, Saturn, Neptune in Aries story, pioneering brand new directions in your work. Wow. Like where you can be a master and authority, and also that you can rise up to places of power. Like the Saturnian power is directorial, managerial. It's organizing people, it's like the supervisor or something, but you can move up a role in a work setting in the next 2.5 years. You might almost have done it last summer, but it didn't work out. But also Neptune says, what's the vision? What's the strategy of what you dream that you wish, like a dream job? Okay, this is like, look for the dream job. And the next 2.5 years might deliver it. Chiron says, I've been feeling wounded in my job, work, slavery, duty house, servitude since 2019. You might have been doing the job, but hated the job, or the job wasn't your cup of tea. You felt like you didn't belong. You were the outsider in the job setting. I always think of my Scorpio son, an artist, musician, sound engineer working at PepsiCo for sales. You know what I mean? Like he's just doing it for the job, for the money, for the resources, so he can have a family and all of that. But that's not his passion. So people who are in a passionless job, Saturn can give you a reality check. Neptune can bring you new dreams. So lay the tracks, right? For the imagination. Imagination lays the tracks for the reality train to follow. Also, you may, under this transit, some of you work really, really hard, because Saturn here is the taskmaster and the disciplined, perseverant one. Although in Saturn, there might be pioneering ways to work hard. Maybe you'll start using AI to make your job easier. I don't know, but pioneering, frontiering ways to succeed in your work and work hard and succeed because you work hard. You want to talk to anybody who is a Libra rising who lived through this recently, and they'll tell you how hard they worked in the last 3 years. The other thing about this is I find that when the sixth house is activated, people start thinking about pets. And Saturn says traditional, but then it's pioneering. And the Neptune says soulmate. So it's a bit confusing, but it could look like a real strong call towards getting an animal in the home, a domestic animal pet thing going. Kind of fun to kind of imagine what Saturn, Neptune animals are like. Saturn could be a rescue animal, right? Especially with Neptune, which is charity. So getting a rescue animal into your home in the next 2 to 3 years by April 28 would look like a strong possibility here. And there's the muse, Uranus, song and dance, right? So anyone who hates your work job, can you find the inspiration, the muse, the pleasure in the work you're doing? And I think you're going to try to do that in the next 2.5 years. So, managed by Mars in the fourth house. Now let's get down to the fourth house. Home, property, land, and real estate, mutual reception to Saturn. It's like, okay, I want to move my home. This is definitely, Mars is like cut and then sever. Let's move. Between now and April 28, let's move. And where are we going to move to? Well, Saturn rules the house of neighborhoods, a new neighborhood, new city, a new part of my country. Sure. What else? An exalted neighborhood, someone you really want to be. Fine. What else? Rental. You have leases and tenancies, right? Like serfdom in the sixth house. So rather than buying a home, some of you may choose to lease a property, lease a home, and find a new neighborhood and move somewhere in the next 2.5 years. And Saturn will, with Neptune, like try to bring a dream home that's stable and a place maybe where you can work from home as well. Are strong, strong possibilities. Goodness gracious. And it's possible that this new home with Mars here it could be further than your own country. And the reason I bring that up is because Mars here can be like the expat signature. So exiled from one's homeland. So you might find yourself choosing to move far away. But again, I see more likely to be in a rental situation than in a purchase of a home. I would guess anyway, under the story. Or you could be moving for work-related reasons. But again, you may move to another country than the one you're in or the one that you're born in. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing and all of that good stuff. And I'm just saying that because I have to go to the bathroom and I'll be right back. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. First things we have to talk about here, first things first. Fifth house is your children. It's your conception of children. It's the issue of your family. It's your children. And it can be romance and sex too. And it can be creativity and all of that. But once in a lifetime, first in a lifetime. We have a big deal going on here. We have the ingress of a first in a lifetime Neptune Saturn story at the 0 degrees of Aries, and it flows back to your Sag fire. So you kind of like it. It's called a trine. It brings good things to you, just as the Leos feel good about it. And this energy, therefore, is positive. However, it's new and you haven't had it in this lifetime, although you had a taste of it June, July, and August of last year. In June, July, and August of last year, did you feel any reality check or disillusionment around romance and sex, regarding fertility and procreation, regarding one of your children, or did they go through some difficult reality checks in their life? One of the things about that place, the fifth house, is that it involves places in our chart where we want to have fun, play, joy, enthusiasm, and pleasure. And in that regard, maybe the reality check was there's a lack of it last summer, where like my summer loving wasn't so fun, where was no enthusiastic play and fun here. So you can go back to last summer for the testing of the waters, June, July, August, and now we have the real deal. You might still feel like you have to go back and really dive into realism in a place that's often quite very fun, joy, play, and pleasure, right? Like it's fun down there. Enthusiasm, creativity, and inspiration and procreativity. Saturn is a bit of a rain on the parade reality check in this regard. But Neptune's trying to have you dream something. If you can dream it, Saturn says, I'll build it. And if you're an artist, this is ideal. This is really good for the creative artistics in the world. If you're single, it's a wonder bar for finding that new love story. Somebody likely 6, 7 plus years or younger or older than you. Neptune, divine complement, soulmate. I hesitate to say twin flame because that whole thing went sideways for a lot of people. It's more like somebody with whom you feel a deep spiritual connection. And Saturn says karmic or past life, perhaps. And in your relationship, chironically wound in love, sex, and romance. Have you felt that way ever since 2019? Did you I hate to say it, but Chiron here for a lot of the Sagittarius I know, they really got wounded in love stories. Like it didn't go the way they wanted. Like, the promise didn't match the result or something. And so a lot of you are having wounded relationships with your children, falling outs with them. So a lot of people who are Sagittarius went through this trial and trib since 2019 with Chiron, and now you're going to come into some structure and form. Chiron's leaving there for good in 27. I think Saturn and Neptune here could really help the turning point around the wounds of the themes I've just outlined for you. Same with your artistic creative muse, right? Your inner artist, your muse. Has it been wounded? Has it been difficult to find the muse in your life, the creative artistic expression? Have you been wounded in entrepreneurial endeavors that went south, didn't work the way you wanted? Those are things that could have occurred. Now, I do think that this energy, if you're trying to have a child, because this is a conception house, is curious. I'm not sure what to make of it, because Saturn would be form and structure, Chiron would be medical, and Neptune would be dreams come true. So it could be like there's a medical breakthrough, like, okay, I'm too old to have kids, or my hormones are wrong, or this and that, but there's some kind of procedure, form, or structure that can help you conceive, you or your partner, you conceive a child in the next few years, 2.5. Having Saturn in the fifth house means you work hard to have fun. So there's always going to be a push-pull in the next 2.5 years between just pleasure and pursuits of pleasure and fun versus the work and hard work that needs to be done in some area of life, especially if you're self-employed or artistic or creative. You might drill into your discipline as you write the book, create the songs, paint the paintings, whatever it is you do, write the poetry. Let's see if AI can beat human poetry, guys. Now, Mars in the third house is telling Saturn what to do, and Saturn is telling Mars what to do in a mutual reception. And therefore, there's something like lock and key going on to do with romance and travel, children and travel, romance, children, and or the neighborhood locally. This is where Mars is seated. Siblings are activated by Mars in connection to your children and romance over the next 2.5 years. But on a very practical level, I think if you're a singleton looking for love, you're going to meet the person because you're in an educational setting, or you're in a travel environment, or the person is traveling to where you are. And that could bring you into contact with basically a brand new soulmate-y love, basically. This is not for those of you who are paired, okay? That's irrelevant. I would take this energy to look at making money, because Saturn is the ruler of your second house of earnings and savings and pocketbook and wallet. Oh, I would make money in areas of life that you have a natural gift and talent. You have a natural voice for singing. You have a natural way of writing. You're really gifted as a scientist mind, whatever you were born with. Your talents and gifts are the fifth house, using them in a structured way with long visions and goals and fantastical imaginable possibilities to make money. So this is really good for breaking out of an employment story or having a side hustle or independent business and building it over the next 2.5 years and succeeding. If you're prone to overindulging in pleasures of all kinds, gambling, sex, I don't know, foods aren't good for you. You can make a big change here because Mars is sextiling this, but rules the house of what you put in your mouth and nose. So I'd say you're going to get some abilities to contain or control the pleasure palace of life, especially if it's addictions. Because Saturn rules your second house of what you put in your mouth, and Mars rules your house of self-undoing and addiction. So this is really good for those of you who struggle with, whatever substance it is that gives you a temporary dopamine high, but in the long game is not going to be a good idea. We all have those things that we do, and we can say to ourselves, well, it's good in the short term, but not in the long run. And so Saturn is the long game master. He's telling you what's good in the long run, and you're going to be looking at that and making decisions based on the long game, not the short-term pleasure. And so there's a structure there. Delayed gratification maybe is a new skill set you're going to learn. How to delay gratitude would be an example, so that you can get things done. Some of you may move to a new neighborhood, but if you do move to a new neighborhood, you're doing it for your children, or you're doing it for romantic love, to move closer to your children, further away from your children, to move because you're in a romantic relationship situation. All of those are highly possible new stories emerging in the next 2.5 years. But remember, you're just trying to make a dream come true, to make a dream real, to open up a vista of something possible. I encourage any of you who are artistic or creative or have a natural talent or gift of any kind to look at the next 2.5 years as a chance to begin to express that and play with that in the artist studio of the chart. And if you're an actor or performer, this is a nice placement for you as well. Okay, you get a lot of social media success out of this because of Mars's placement, taking dramatic action there. You might cut, sever, and end some engagements with social media practices or platforms you no longer like, but what the replacement platforms or directions are going to be very good for you. Okay. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is your story to look at the fourth house and wonder if you're going to move. Chiron has given you a chironic wound around home, property, land, and real estate, feeling like you belong with the people you live, that you are not the outsider in your community, either like in your home or around your home, or just not really feeling at home in your home, wounded in the home, etc. Maybe health challenges in the home. You never know. That's been 2019 onward. Now we want to shift gears because Saturn says, let's concretely find a new home. Saturn entered here last year, June, July, and August. Neptune was already there. You want a dream home last June, July, and August. Some part of you's journey for that. You probably got reality checked out last summer because there was a refrainment. We couldn't bring the dream to life. Something close, but not quite. A possibility that became unavailable. Something was germinating. You were hoping, maybe wanting something to happen, to be at home in the home, to find the home, the dream home, the right home. Now, this is going to open up something here for the next 2.5 years until April 28, where you could open up into a dream home. Saturn is real concrete, brick and mortar, usually a place where you can also land and last a little longer than a day or a night because it's, it's persistence. And Neptune is the dream and the vision. And of course, you can go Aries frontiers, and Neptune could be near water, and heights would be like a mountain height would be Saturn. And that could be the way the home feels or looks, or the place it's in. It could have themes like that. Of course, volcanic soil, hot places. This is fiery Aries are also possible, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be hot at all. And, I feel like with the Mars story, Mars directing the show, Aries is his kingdom, directing the show from the second house. It has to do with resources financially, making decisions or having changes in your financial resources that are opening up opportunities for a home. And of course, Mars exalts you, and Saturn is the Lord of your sign. These planets are working on your behalf to do with finances and property, land, home, and money. You could buy, you could sell, you could rent. I don't know what it is, but all of these are possibly true. And it looks maybe like there is something that wants to take form and give you an opportunity to secure some kind of change in home. It doesn't always have to be a change directly. Like you could still live where you live, but you begin to feel a new solidity where you are. You want solitude when Saturn is in the fourth house. It's good to be alone. Alone is working for you. You felt this last end of May, June, July, August, that solitude or aloneness, alone time in the home can be positive. I mean, their Saturn's here for 2.5 years, and he might bring an elder in the home. A wise old person or an elder parent or grandparent could live with you. But otherwise, you want to be the Saturn cave-dwelling, solitude-seeking being, the monk or whatever. So there may be a real strong pull for you to find a place where you can spend some alone time. If you're going to move, you might say, I'm not going to move into the, a dormitory. I'm not going to move into a really busy urban center. You might like some isolation. And I know Aries is that kind of like frontier. It's certainly a suburb, probably not the heart of a city. It's like outside, on the edges of something. And Mars is funny because he's working with Saturn. So one way that you could be involving this could evolve to benefit you is money from a parent, money from legacy wealth or family of origin could come your way in the next 2.5 years. Many, many ways it could come through. So I'm not going to bother delineating all of the possibilities. I would be here forever. But I wouldn't rule out money from a sibling, one older, for example, than you, and that money from that sibling coming your way, maybe just as a friendly gift or a helping hand. Or maybe from inheritances. So that's one thought I have. For Mars rules Scorpio in the money house, and that's a sibling just one older than you. I'm on February 21st, but on February 20th, when the conjunction happens, the moon will be with Saturn, Neptune. So it could also be a sibling 3 older or 3 younger than you also could open up those doors for you. Now we're going to move past this in a minute, but I will say one more thing. There is a small chance here with this kind of fourth house story. The whole Chiron. Chiron is the outsider. He doesn't really conform, and we made that a problem, right? But it doesn't always have to be a problem. To be an outsider is like to be a stranger in a strange land. And there is a possible move to a new home, but it may be in a different culture, a different country. In a way, it will make you feel like you are, the outsider. Saturn alone is a loner, but also the outsider. And then Chiron is also the outsider, right? He was different from all the other centaurs and he was excluded. So if you don't seek solitude, you just could move to a place like everyone else speaks Chinese, you don't speak it. You might feel like the outsider in the place you go to. But with Neptune, it's part of a bigger dream, a part of a vision of something you actually want, maybe. Home and homeland. If you already live abroad and you don't live in the country in which you were born, you might repatriate to your homeland. Okay. This can be a repatriation transit. And that's another story I could tell. And some of you might move for work and job reasons. Okay. In the next 2.5 years. Good for healing your chironic wounds to do with your childhood as well, particularly wounds around the mother, and finally closing them up once and for all. Done with that. Complete karmic endings to chironic childhood wounds. Oh, and it's a spiritual liberation from your childhood of origin. It's snowing in Vancouver. No wonder I feel unwell. It's sleet snow outside my window. Sleet snow. Holy man, I got to go there and get some food for my house. And it's going to be, after being at 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, I'm going to freeze my ass. Karmic, spiritual liberation from your family of origin, culture, tribe, and the social norms of your childhood. All right. Aquarius, I'm one of you. Sun, moon, and rising sign. It feels to me like we are making major life decisions. We have Pluto in our sign with Mars. Didn't draw it all in there. And so we are transforming and we are dying and being born again. We're having massive shifts of our identity and more. And because of this, we also have Mars to choose to act, to decide. That's his job in our sign. He's witnessing this first in a lifetime, once in a lifetime, beginning of a story of Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction in Aries, which will be in play until April of 2028. And because of that, we are looking at a new beginning of some kind in the third house of the following themes: learning and teaching, writing and communicating, marketing and sometimes selling, social media, neighbors and neighborhood, and siblings. Also, in the third house, we have ideas, and we think. It's I think. So our ideas are going to be changing as well as what we communicate, and usually through our arms and hands, which is writing to the world, unless we're speaking in sign language. So because, for example, we've had a chironic wound here since 2019. There's a wound around travel. I forgot to say short distance travel, a wound around neighbors and neighborhood and siblings, a wound around writing. All of these wounds I've had. Okay, I'm not even going to go belabor it, but try being in the pandemic without the special thing you had to have to travel in Canada, and then you'll feel wounded about travel. And I would say that a lot of this energy for the third house with Neptune is about imagination. In a house, it's about writing and communicating. Or also Neptune rules social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram. Anything with visual, moving imagery or photography. And so there's a lot, but now Substack is a writing platform. So we'll have to include Substack. So because the third house is social media. So social media platforms, authority, mastery, determination, and success come through here. But what would you like to dream into being? Because this is also that whole imagination lays the tracks for the reality train to follow. So begin to co-opt your imagination, your visions, and your dreams to make something happen here. Now, because reality check disillusionment is a feature, what happened June, July, and August? Where did you feel reality checked, disillusioned? Where did it feel hard? Where were your dreams not measuring up to what you fantasized was possible? I can use me as one example. I changed neighborhoods, right? I'm not really, but I moved to a new area. Like move to a new home. Sometimes moves our third house and fourth house. And there was just a lot of sirens. It was really hot. I don't have air conditioning. My windows were open. I had some disillusionment, right, about my home. And funny, Neptune can rule toxins and poisons too. And I thought the blinds are outgassing because they are really smelly and I had to put them down. So I felt like I had purifiers of air because I thought I had a toxic house. So I had some disenchantment last summer in my new home, June, July, and August. And so that was not a full problem, but now this comes back for like reality check. So maybe I'll find, oh my God, there's like termites in this building. But whatever it is, it may indicate some reality check about, for me, that the environment in which I live, my neighborhood, my, that kind of thing. You might want to consider the third house reset button really positive. If there's anything that you want to make, do, or decide upon connected to things that you wish to express through the word ideas, communicating ideas to the world through writing, through teaching, through social media. Mars is going to say, I've got this. We are in a mutual reception to Saturn. Let's get on it. For me, having at least 4 books that I will write in this lifetime, according to my own intuition, having written none of them, this is what it is for me as well. That chironic writing wound that kicked in 2019 will be gone. Are any of my other Aquarians thinking similar things? You want to write, you want to market, you want to communicate, you want to teach, or you want to learn? Where's the wound there? What do you want to learn that you want to jump into that feels like, okay, I'm ready for this. I have discipline and mastery and authority to learn this skills-based learning. You're not going to go get, Hellenistic ancient Greece doctorates or something, or doctorates in some like stupid, like creatively interesting but not useful talent or gift. Like, you're going to want to learn something that's going to be called skills-based learning. You can use it in the world, right? You get a real estate license, that's a skills-based learning. You learn how to be a mechanic, or you learn how to write, or you learn. So skills-based learning. And that could be a big target area for you. You want to learn that skill, you want to take it on, and your next 2.5 years, you're down for that. It's a travel house. Saturn, he says, you're going to travel, but you'll feel a few things, Neptune, Saturn. The travel you do might very much be connected, because Saturn rules not only your first house, you, sun, moon, and rising, but also the 12th house of distant lands and shores, but isolation. So you will travel, but you want to travel alone or to places where you can spend time alone. And some of that will be for writing, communicating, doing things, but travel for alone time and spiritual contemplation and enlightenment. So pilgrimages, ashrams, spiritual retreats and retreat centers, or creative or writing or communicating projects. So the travel becomes not so much about pleasure, leisure, fun, and frolic. It's a lot of travel for very deep spiritual and soulful reasons. If you need a teacher spiritually, this could bring you somebody, but likely an online platform teacher or some body of sage-like knowledge and wisdom that you're ready to learn, but you're likely more engaged with this either in the social media sphere or through intermittent trips to be with that person, that sage like Yoda, who has some guiding, healing, teaching, mentoring to give you, Chiron, right? Yeah. And it's possible that a sibling in your life in general, not one older or younger, just sibling, but maybe one younger, but siblings in general could be going through a reality check in their own life. And you may be there supporting them, helping them make executive decisions in the next 2.5 years. And siblings can also go through challenges with their own health in the next 2.5 years as well. Or you're helping a sibling with life challenges, or a sibling maybe making a major life move geographically. And somehow you get involved in that, in supporting them during geographical relocation processes or something like that. And yeah, that's basically the vibe. Okay. All right, let's continue. And while I'm going shortest for me, the person who didn't like the Leo thing says, I only say good things for Aquarius because I say all the bad stuff for Leo. Is that true? I don't think so. I just told you if somebody could have a health challenge, right? And, or, difficult life circumstances or hospitalization. I didn't say that. That's the 12th house in the next 2.5 years. Neighbors and neighborhoods. If you don't feel like you belong, or you never did, how'd you feel last June, July, and August? Or do you want to make a change in the neighborhood? Or do you want to hang out with new people in new areas of your local environment that are sober, right? Saturn, Neptune, sobriety, or whatever, realistic people, imaginal, creative, mystical people with a spiritual bent. Those are the kinds of people that you'll be drawn to orient in the everyday local environment of your life. Saturn gives you discipline. Neptune gives you spiritual depth. Sometimes the third house represents your daily routines because I go to the store, I go for a jog, I go to the gym, and new structure, new form to improve your health. Chiron in your daily routines, maybe a big part of the next while. Mars is exercise. Mars is hitting the barbells. Mars is jogging. So I can see a lot of you joining new yoga clubs, gyms, and getting really down with routines and discipline for health connected to the local environment. In the next 2.5 years, you might have started to do it last June, July, and August, but there was a refrainment. You didn't get it fully off the ground. Now you're really going to step forward and dig in. Pisces, sun, moon, and rising, first in a lifetime, last in a lifetime. In Saturn, Neptune, 0 degrees of Aries, and Aries is your money house. Well, some of you may admit it or not, you didn't do so well with your money story since 2019. Maybe it was up and down, maybe it was on and off. Maybe you had wounds about self-worth and self-esteem and value and valuability about your earnings and your money and what you're worth. Your pocketbook savings and wallet could have declined. That's a chironic wound in the money and earnings house. Also chironic wounds around your face, what you look like, and the food style as well, dietary habits. Now that's a story you've been dealing with since 2019. Here comes Saturn and Neptune in a first in a lifetime vibe. They tested the waters here, but didn't fully complete last June, July, and August. Now you're ready for the real deal. Now, first of all, reality checks, right? Humbly speaking, about money. So you might have already had the reality check last summer, and now you're ready to get real and get going. Or you still might have a little disillusionment in front of you around financial matters. On that regard, with the Muse Urania there, you're good to follow the Muse and how you decide to make money, but don't believe your own lies for Assisi, that fictional story. But I think you're good here to reset a button for stability financially. Talk to any Aquarius. We went through it. I incorporated ways to save, to contain, and to hold and secure your financial well-being could be on the docket for you. Well, Neptune says, dream big, dream it into reality, have a vision here. But making money with Neptune through mysticism, imagination, storytelling, creativity, photography, filmmaking, these are Neptunian fields of endeavor, glamour, and you might be able to own that space for how you make the money. He's there for 14 years. If you talk to me in Aquarius rising, and I went through 14 years of Neptune here. After I got rid of my delusions around get rich quick schemes, I became very Neptunian. I became an internet person, especially YouTube. I want you to know, though, Saturn will keep you from falling for schemes of people trying to usually, steal your money, or not steal your money, but, it's kind of like pie in the sky, wishful thinking around finances. It's delusional. Saturn will keep you real. You won't fall for stuff, right? Saturn is a reality check here for the next 2.5 years until the end of April. Saturn constricts, and this is what you eat. Neptune says poisons. You might be looking at changing dietary habits and styles because you realize that foods that you've ingested haven't been doing you a service. You might think, okay, I'm going to quit the weed, the wine, the vape, but I'm also going to quit, gluten. There's a new direction around health. Maybe you discover you're gluten intolerant. Maybe you discover you're celiac. Changes in your dietary style and health related decisions to change your diet. You may have noticed some problems last summer or tried to make some shifts around that, including addictions, because Saturn was a house of self-undoing, but now you're off to the races. Good news is when this is happening, not only do you change your dietary habits and improve your health, including addictions, but you also are quite able to actually create new sources of income and money because Saturn rules your house of career gains itself and the profitability of the 10th house. So this is going to open up new doors of financial profitability and how you make money and the way it comes to you and the success you experience in job and career is about to turn. Now, you don't know the full lay of the land. It's going to take up to April of 2028 to show you what it's doing. Where is it going? What are you learning here? But I would say for a lot of you, the fact that you've had a wound about money and earnings, that could have implied also job and career stress as well, is changing. And it could indicate a turnaround story for you, the beginning of a new prosperity and how the money you make comes into your life and how much you are going to feel successful. With Mars in a mutual reception from this 12th house, I encourage you to work for an international company, move to another country and work, or have clients and customers internationally, meaning that you have borderless income and digital revenue. That's quite common these days when people work from home because they use the internet and their borders for who they charge money to. PayPal, Stripe, doesn't matter. So there is a possibility of changing money and earnings through a digital income source or international revenue style of making money. I really like this. So for massive changes to addictions, and if you have any, they're going to go away. You can't keep them. If you want to maybe look at this as eliminating expenditures that have been plaguing you financially. So you can't save money because you're spending money on some expenditure, right? That's a good way to see this as well. The death of expenditures that have held you back from saving, for example. I like the second house for your voice, right? Voice is how you speak, what you say. It's also a voice vocation calling. So there's a new direction for you, but your voice can be Saturnian, which is like Yoda or something, or Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like you'll speak wisdom. You'll speak sage-like knowledge. You'll speak from this perspective of elders speaking the truth, listen to the grandparents. They know better. You know what I mean? So you speak like an elder with a youthful vibrancy, pioneering. Reckless, maybe watch for reckless speech, but there's going to be a steadfast way of speaking, as well as visionary, imaginal, maybe spiritual stuff that you wish to speak into the world. Neptune, Saturn. Quite often, this is also going to be a change of your visage, your face. Saturn will maybe want to structure something different, teeth, veneers, nose job, I don't know. And Neptune says, the dream come true. Like you've always never liked the fact that your nose was a certain way. And you finally make a decision and it's time, chironic wound to the face to heal your appearance facially. Mars would mean hiding out all alone while you recover from surgery between now and April of 2028. Maybe you tried to pull something off, though, to fix your face last year, dental work or something to do with your face, get a mole removed or whatever. I think you can do surgical interventions to fix your face, sextile Mars. 12th house could, though, be going to another country to do it. Please be careful. Those foreign country surgical things that are cheap often have really bad repercussions. You got to look out for yourself here. But dental work for sure. Major dental work could happen and changes to your teeth. And you may have already had that June, July, August last year, May, June, July. You've gone through it already, but it's still here through till April of 2028. The important thing is that Saturn and Neptune want you to dream a new financial dream. And it's going to likely show you work and career ways for that to occur. All right, because it's opening up 2, 6, and 10, your Artha houses, career and prosperity and material realm stuff. It's very pentacles in the tarot. All right. And it's once in a lifetime, first in a lifetime. So we can't compare it. This last happened in 1703. You don't know how to compare it. You can't say what it looks like until it happens. Please like and subscribe. There's no outro today. I got to self-nurture. I'm going to go get some food. There's no food in my house. I'm going to make some dinner. And then I'm going to collapse into bed. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe. A lot of people like the poem I read on my last video, perhaps. The outro was a poem. There's a poem there. Go listen to it. People thought I should publish it separately. I might have time. I've done a lot of outros to do with deep spiritual topics. And I will be one of my people that works for me and with me, Christy, made a compilation for my members only of some of my ghost stories. And that's doing really well over there. And I will add that kind of content here at one point as well. I do have a member section. Join it. See if you like what I put out here, just for members only on YouTube. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Welcome to a new era. Whoa. Bye. Lunatic astrology.